but eternal quest for answers, if you will. Answers to questions of our own existence, where we come from, where we're headed, how we got here, where we're going, what happens after death, and so on. I think you'll agree with me that science and faith collide in these attempts to explain the unexplainable. And as human beings, our thirst for answers is certainly unquenchable. As hard as we work and as much knowledge as we attain from one generation over the next, though, we have got to come to grips with the fact that we will never be able to explain the unexplainable, such as what happens after our own death, for example. Some things are as they are, and we will more than likely never, without some type of divine intervention anyway, ever know the answers. From the origins and meanings of Stonehenge to the makeup of the human brain, we will continue the search in hopes that we may someday be able to explain the currently unexplainable. But we must resign ourselves to the fact that some things will forever go unanswered. We simply don't understand what makes evil, nor do we understand what makes evil snap. And what this latest incident proves again is that in many cases we are powerless to spot it, let alone stop it, until it acts. It's there. It's amongst us. How many more of these events do we need to see before we come to grips with the facts? There are bad people among us who simply break. For reasons that we don't or never will understand, they simply shatter, and they bring suffering and pain with them on an unimaginable scale as they themselves collapse. Almost as bad, there are those who within minutes of the acts of an evil monster begin playing the blame game, casting fault on objects rather than the evil itself. The bodies of the victims in Colorado lay motionless and lifeless on the floor of that theater, and Mayor Bloomberg, New York City Mayor Bloomberg, is politicizing unspeakable tragedy and blaming firearms. Without missing a beat, the Brady campaign is using the horrors of a madman to solicit new members, petition signatures, and you can rest assured, donations, literally feeding off of the acts of evil. You see, knee-jerk reactions from us feeble human beings in search of answers to unthinkable atrocity like this is normal. Feigning concern and politicizing that unthinkable atrocity by feeding off of the corpses of evil's victims for political pandering, personal attention, and organizational gain is equally as atrocious. We expect that from the likes of Bloomberg and ABC News, who would attempt to blame a political movement, the Tea Party in this case, that they disagree with, for the acts of an evil madman. And I will only say to them at a time like this that we're on to you, we understand your agenda, we reject you and your insidious tactics and shifting of blame to anything or anyone other than the evildoer himself. You've proven yourselves unworthy yet again of additional comments at this point, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. You see, we may be powerless to initially identify it or stop it before it unleashes its anger upon us, evil, that is, but by denying its very existence, we are in many ways culpable for enabling its growth and its ability to metastasize and further prey on us. By denying that evil can and will find us, not just the other guy, but by denying that, yes, it can happen here, and yes, it can happen to me, we are playing into its hands, and we are enabling the next unspeakable act. That denial was evident everywhere. You saw it. I know you did. Virtually every news report I watched on every network that morning, and I heard the same thing. I can't believe it happened here. Fox News morning anchor and reporter on the curvy couch couldn't believe it happened where he was from. This is a nice middle-class town. How could this happen here? No one I spoke to back home can believe this. You see, by denying it, we're failing to protect against it. To deny that evil happens and to further deny people the right to protect themselves from it is as evil itself. And those who would do so while enjoying protection from evil is unconscionable. To hear President Obama remind us that his children also go to the movies in some sorry attempt to calm us, and somehow try to allude to us that his kids are just as vulnerable as our own, is disingenuous at best. You see, Mr. Obama failed to mention that his children enjoy bomb-sweeping advanced security details, sharpshooter protection, and a bevy of armed Secret Service protection surrounding them. Yet again, he tried to play our stupid fiddle, but he failed. Bloomberg with his "I'm the mayor and you're not" armed security detail, while telling us guns are bad. Sodas are bad, as he MCs the stuffing of 62 hot dogs down your throat in less than 10 minutes. The hypocrisy is maddening. However, there's more at play here. Much more at play. Human beings have been designing incredibly effective methods to slaughter each other since the dawn of time. You know that. And for that matter, Americans have been the most well-armed populace on earth for centuries. Yet these types of crimes are a fairly recent phenomenon. What happened in Aurora, as well as Columbine, Fort Hood, Virginia Tech, pick your others, is a direct result of a critical, acute breakdown in our modern society, period. Whatever it is we're doing simply ain't working. From the breakdown and acceptance of the breakdown of the family unit in this country, the acceptance that a single-parent household is as effective as a two-person household, to the gratuitous extreme violence, and it's extreme, shoved down our throats in movie theaters and video games, to the perversion of our television shows, our cultural mores are being obliterated in America. The incredible desensitization to violence by America's youth is palpable. The fact is that this scale of violence, and this is incredibly disturbing, is largely perpetrated by American youth. This never existed in this nation as many of us were growing up. The Brady campaign is damn well aware that we all had guns then, just as we do now, and never experienced this level of atrocity. One of my guests this evening will remind you of the days when you could buy a gun at your local hardware store or order one from the Sears catalog as a 5-year-old. I remember those days. No. You see, this is much deeper. Our values as a culture here in America have been on the decline for years. You know it. Combined with the acceptance and desensitization of incredible violence in this society, and the results are inevitable. It's inevitable. This problem has nothing, and I repeat, nothing to do with gun control. Or concealed carry, for that matter. As I mentioned, Americans have been the most well-armed society on earth for centuries. No. This problem runs much, much deeper and digs into our cultural roots, and the connections are glaringly visible in high definition, to put it in modern perspective, to anyone who's willing to open their eyes, take off the political mask, and get real. This is the Armed American Radio Network. Tonight's show is going to be huge. The guest lineup is incredible. Dr. John Lott, Fox News contributor, New York Times best-selling author of More Guns, Less Crime, now in its 3rd edition, will be here at the bottom of this hour. In the second hour, we will hear from America's most well-recognized expert, and I mean expert, in the field of mass shootings. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman will be here. And I will tell you now that it is not for the faint of heart. His hour is hard-hitting, and he will tell you like it is. He will tell you and prove to you that denial kills. And he will explain to you, in the best ability that he can, how you as a human being can deal with this and what you can do to avoid it. It's reality. It's hard-hitting reality. Later in the show, Alan Corwin will be here, just short of his trip to CNN tomorrow to be interviewed by Christiane Amanpour. I promise you, this will be one dynamite broadcast. Don't miss it. More here on the Armed American Radio Network when we come back.